The stars above Therion Prime were red with fire. The Queen's fleet was falling apart, one ship after another breaking into burning metal that scattered across the void. Inside her command chamber, Queen Veralia stood tall, her silver armor glowing against the flashing lights of the dying bridge. Her people screamed orders, their voices shaking with fear as enemy cruisers surrounded them on every side. The Queen's empire, once proud and strong, was on the edge of destruction. She had never begged for mercy, never bowed before any race. But now her people were dying, her power fading, and no one had come to help. Across the galaxy, the human fleets remained silent. They had declared neutrality. Humans would not fight in alien wars. That was what everyone believed, until one small signal broke through the storm of battle. A human voice came through the comms, calm and steady. "This is Captain Mason Reed of the UNS Resolute. We've received your distress call." Veralia froze. A human out here? It was impossible. Her officers turned toward her, confused. Before she could reply, his voice came again, firm and certain. "Hold your position. I'm coming in." The humans were known for many things: reckless courage, impossible endurance, and a strange habit of fighting for others without reason. But even that did not prepare her for what came next. Through the thick fog of plasma fire, a small human cruiser jumped directly between her flagship and the enemy dreadnought. It was suicide. Her sensors showed the human ship was outnumbered and outgunned 10-1, but the human did not retreat. He charged. The alien dreadnought opened fire. Hundreds of plasma bolts cut through space like rivers of light. The human ship returned fire, targeting weak points, creating a wall of explosions that slowed the enemy's advance. The Therion officers gasped as they watched the impossible unfold. A single human vessel holding back an entire fleet. Verelia's heart pounded. She gripped the command rail and stared at the display. "Who is that human?" she whispered. No one could answer her. The comms crackled again. "Your Majesty," came Mason's voice, strained but calm. "You have to go now. My ship will hold as long as it can." "Get your escape pods ready." Veralia shook her head. "You will die," she said quietly. "Your ship cannot withstand their fire." "Doesn't matter," Mason replied. "As long as you and your people make it out, it's worth it." The line went silent for a moment. Then the human ship launched its last torpedoes, striking the enemy flagship's reactors. The explosion tore through the enemy formation, creating a blinding shockwave. For a few seconds, the void turned white. The Queen's officers shouted, "Now, Majesty! Escape pods ready!" She hesitated, still watching the small human ship disappear in the storm. The Resolute was gone. When the shockwave cleared, hundreds of enemy vessels drifted helplessly, their systems fried by the blast. The Therion survivors escaped through the burning wreckage, guided by the opening the human had created. Queen Verelia's escape pod launched last. As it spun through the wreckage, she looked out the window one last time, hoping to see some sign of the human. But there was only silence and the empty void. She did not speak during the entire journey back to her capital world. Her guards tried to comfort her, but she ignored them all. In her heart, she replayed that human's last words, steady, fearless, filled with something she had almost forgotten existed: selfless honor. The Therion Empire was built on strength and obedience, not compassion. Yet this one human had given everything for her life without even knowing her. Days passed. The war ended soon after. Without their leaders, the enemy forces withdrew. The Queen returned to her palace on Therion Prime, victorious but not proud. Each victory celebration only reminded her of what was lost. In her private chamber, she often stood before the window, staring into the stars where his ship had vanished. No statue, no medal, no song had ever been given to him. The galaxy had already forgotten, but she had not. Late one night, when the wind howled across the crystal towers, she whispered to herself, "He was human, yet more noble than any I have known." Her hand rested on the glass and she closed her eyes. Somewhere, she wished, his soul could hear her. But fate had one more surprise left. On a distant moon orbiting Therion Prime, a small rescue team found a signal. A damaged human pod, frozen and silent, still transmitted a weak distress beacon. Inside, a man lay motionless, barely breathing. His nameplate read, "Captain Mason Reed." The medic sent the message directly to the palace. The Queen read the report twice, her heart skipping with every word. He was alive. Somehow, against every law of nature, the human had survived. She ordered her best scientists to bring him to her world no matter the cost. As her ship lifted off toward the outer rings, her advisors warned her it was dangerous to interfere with human biology. But she didn't care. She had already lost him once. She would not let him go again. And when the frozen chamber was finally opened and she saw that same human face beneath the frost, calm, scarred, but alive, something deep within her changed. For the first time since she had taken the throne, Queen Veralia smiled. Days turned into nights as the alien healers worked endlessly to save the human who had risked everything. The chamber was cold, filled with soft blue light and the steady hum of the machines keeping him alive. Queen Veralia sat beside the glass tube where Mason lay frozen in deep healing sleep. His body was scarred, his uniform torn, yet there was calmness in his face, as if he had accepted his fate long ago. The healers warned her that human bodies were fragile, their biology unstable under alien treatment. They said he might never wake again, but Veralia refused to listen. She ordered them to keep trying even if it took months. To her, this human was not just a soldier. He was the one who had reminded her what true courage meant. When she was alone, she often spoke to him softly, her voice echoing in the silent chamber. "You don't even know who I am," she would say. "You just fought to save lives that weren't yours. My people once called humans reckless and wild, but they never understood. You have something we lost long ago." Every day she returned to check on him. Her council began to whisper. Some said the queen had gone mad. Others claimed she was under human influence. Still, she ignored them all. To her, the man inside that healing capsule was not just a symbol. He was proof that hope still existed even in a broken galaxy. After many cycles, the impossible happened. The chamber lights flickered and the sound of the monitor changed. Mason's heart began to beat on its own again. The queen rushed to his side, her eyes wide with disbelief. The healers quickly worked around him, adjusting the settings, lowering the containment field. When his eyes finally opened, he blinked in confusion. The air felt heavy, the ceiling strange, and everything around him glowed faintly blue. He tried to sit up, but his muscles refused. "Where am I?" he asked weakly. "You are safe," came the calm voice beside him. He turned his head slowly and saw her for the first time without the chaos of battle. The alien queen, tall and graceful, her silver hair falling around her shoulders, her eyes bright like molten gold. He recognized her from the transmission he had once seen before the battle. "Queen Veralia," he whispered. She nodded slowly. "You remember?" He tried to speak again, but pain crossed his face. She placed her hand gently on his shoulder. "Do not try to move. Your body has endured much." Mason's gaze moved across the room. Strange symbols covered the walls, and alien healers bowed as the queen stood near him. He had expected death, but instead found himself alive and surrounded by beings who had once been enemies. "Why did you save me?" he asked quietly. "My ship was destroyed." "I did what anyone would do." The queen's expression softened. "You did what no one else would do. You risked your life for mine, for my people. You gave me a future I did not deserve." He looked at her in disbelief. "It was just duty," he said. "Humans don't abandon others if they can help." Veralia turned away slightly. "Duty, yes. But there was something else. Something in your eyes that day. You fought without hate. You fought because it was right." For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of machines filled the silence. The queen stood by his bedside, watching the human whose courage had changed the course of her world. Days passed, and Mason's strength returned little by little. The palace medics were fascinated by him. They studied human endurance and found it both strange and remarkable. He began to walk again with slow, careful steps, often accompanied by Veralia herself. They would walk through the crystal gardens where the air shimmered with soft light. She told him about her empire, the wars, and the cost of power. He listened quietly, sometimes smiling, sometimes frowning, never judging. In return, he told her about Earth, about blue skies, oceans, and the strange beauty of rain. She had never seen rain before. The idea of water falling freely from the sky made her smile. "You humans live on a world of storms," she said one evening as they stood by the balcony. "Yet you seem to love them." "They remind us we're alive," Mason replied. "You can't appreciate sunlight without a storm first." Her heart stirred at his words. She had ruled for years, surrounded by soldiers, politicians, and empty voices. But this man, this simple human, spoke like someone who had nothing to prove yet everything to protect. She found herself seeking his presence more often, her duties forgotten when he was near. But not everyone shared her feelings. In the dark halls of the palace, the High Council met in secret. They feared the human's influence. "He is dangerous," one of them whispered. "His kind are unpredictable. He must be sent away." Another added, "The queen is no longer herself. She spends her time with that creature while our borders remain weak." Rumors spread across the capital. Some said the queen had fallen under human magic. Others believed she was losing her mind. But Veralia did not care. Mason had saved her life once. Now she felt it was her turn to protect his. One night, when the palace grew silent, Mason sat by the window of his chamber looking at the stars. The queen entered quietly, her robe glowing softly in the dim light. "You should rest," she said. "I can't sleep," he replied. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the explosion again." She stepped closer, her voice gentle. "That explosion saved my world. You have nothing to regret?" He looked up at her, his expression tired yet peaceful. "Maybe not. But I didn't do it for a world, Your Majesty. I just didn't want to see another good person die." Her breath caught at his words. For a long time, she said nothing. Then softly, almost like a promise, she whispered, "You won't lose me, human. Not now. Not ever." The stars outside flickered like candles as silence filled the room. Neither of them noticed how close they had grown, but fate already knew what was coming next.